When your partner remembers every argument but forgets every promise, do you actually know what that means? Yes, it seems like a bad memory. Maybe they are just wired to hold on to the negative stuff. But behind that pattern, there is something deeper that most people in relationships completely miss. It is one of the most emotionally loaded things a partner can do. And if you misunderstand it, which most people do, you could be missing a cry for help that has been playing on repeat right in front of you. Let's start with what is really happening. So why does your partner hold on to every fight like a filing cabinet, but somehow lose track of every promise they made to you? Most people assume it is simple. They are stressed. They are forgetful. End of story. But here's the thing. If a bad memory was all it was, they would forget the arguments too. They would forget the fight you had in March just as easily as they forgot the weekend trip they promised you in April. But they do not. The fights stay. The promises vanish. That is not a memory problem. That is an emotional priority system. Their brain is telling you exactly what feels most urgent to them, and it is not the future they promised you. It is the pain they have not processed from the past. Gottman's research on what he calls the 4 horsemen of relationship breakdown found that defensiveness and stonewalling both feed off one thing: unresolved emotional injury. When your partner clings to old arguments, they are not being petty. They are defending a wound that never fully closed. The promise gets forgotten because their emotional system is too busy guarding against the next threat to invest in the next plan. And by the way, if your partner used to remember everything and suddenly stopped, do not brush that off. We will get into what that reversal really means at the end, and it is something most people wish they had understood before it was too late. Have you ever noticed a shift in your partner's voice or body right before they bring up an old argument? Maybe their shoulders tighten. Maybe their tone drops. That is not random. That is instinctive. What is happening underneath is something called emotional flooding. It is a state where the nervous system becomes so overwhelmed by a perceived emotional threat that it hijacks the brain's ability to think clearly about anything else. Here's what most people in relationships don't realize. When your partner replays that argument from 6 months ago, they are not just rehashing old words. They are reliving the feeling of being hurt, dismissed, or unseen in that moment. Their body remembers the threat even when their mind has moved on. This is why your partner can recall not just the argument itself, but exactly what you said, the tone you used, where you were standing. The emotional brain does not just remember events, it photographs them. Meanwhile, a promise about the future has no emotional charge yet. For a nervous system stuck in protection mode, something that has not happened yet is not worth storing. Ever wonder why this pattern shows up in some relationships and not others? Maybe it is the couple who fought every week but stayed together for decades. Maybe it is the partner who never raised their voice but left without warning. Maybe it is the relationship that looked perfect on the outside but felt hollow on the inside. That pattern is not random. It is deeply rooted in how we learn to love. Researchers studying couples have identified what is called the pursuer and distancer dynamic. One partner reaches for closeness by bringing up unresolved conflict. The other pulls away by minimizing, forgetting, or shutting down. The one who remembers every argument is often the pursuer. They are not trying to start a fight. They are trying to be heard. The one who forgets every promise is often the distancer. They are not being careless. They are overwhelmed by the emotional weight of commitment when the relationship already feels unstable. Gottman's research found that couples who get stuck in this cycle early on have a significantly higher chance of the relationship breaking down entirely. Watch how this plays out. If they bring up old fights during unrelated conversations, they are telling you they still feel unresolved pain. If they make promises in the heat of a good moment but cannot follow through, they are telling you they want to be close, but do not trust the stability enough to plan for it. If they remember your mistakes in detail but go blank when you ask about plans, They are telling you their emotional system is locked in defense mode and has no room left for hope. And hey, if this is making you see your relationship differently right now, hit that like button and subscribe. It is the best way to help us reach more people who actually care about understanding what is really happening in their relationships. Now let's break this down further, because not every version of this behavior means the same thing. The first is the selective historian. This partner stores every disagreement like evidence in a case file. They can quote what you said 3 years ago word for word, but what it reveals is not cruelty. It reveals a partner whose emotional injuries were never acknowledged. The wound is still open. They are not punishing you. They are asking you to finally see the cut. The second is the avoidant promiser. This partner says yes to everything in the moment, but the follow-through never comes. This is not laziness. They are using promises to de-escalate emotional pressure. They mean it when they say it. But once the intensity drops, the promise loses its urgency. They are not lying to you. They are surviving the conversation. And once the conversation ends, the promise has already served its purpose in their mind. The third is the defensive vault. This partner brings up old fights the second they feel criticized. It is a reflex. Gottman calls this a form of defensiveness, one of the most reliable predictors of relationship decline. Their system cannot tolerate being the only one at fault, so it scrambles to balance the equation. And then there is the invisible exit. This is the one most people never see coming, because it does not look like a problem. It looks like peace. This partner stops arguing, stops promising, stops bringing up the past, but underneath, they have disengaged. Esther Perel describes this as the moment when a relationship does not end with a bang. It ends with silence. And that silence is the most dangerous version of this pattern, because by the time you notice it, they may have already left emotionally long before they leave physically. Have you ever noticed that you start choosing your words more carefully around your partner when they bring up old fights? Maybe you rehearse conversations in your head before you have them. Maybe you avoid certain topics entirely because you know where they lead. That is not a coincidence. It is an emotional shift that the dynamic between you created. Researchers studying hypervigilance in couples found that when one partner consistently references past conflict, the other begins to unconsciously monitor their own behavior with increasing anxiety. You start walking on eggshells, not because you did something wrong, but because your nervous system has learned that anything you say can and will be remembered. Think about that for a second. Your entire way of showing up in this relationship has been quietly reshaped by a pattern you did not even know was running. Not because your partner asked you to change, but because the emotional climate trained you to. Ever had a week where something was weighing on you and your partner's behavior shifted before you even said a single word? Maybe they got distant. Maybe they picked a fight over something small. That is not a coincidence. They felt it before you spoke. Partners who have been together long enough develop an emotional radar for each other. They pick up on micro signals you do not even know you are sending. A half-second delay in your reply, a slight change in how you say good morning, and here is where it gets even deeper. That argument they suddenly started about something from 3 months ago may not have been about 3 months ago at all. It may have been a response to something they sensed in you today, something you had not even put into words yet. They are not just reacting to you. They are reacting to the version of you that you do not even know you are showing. So what does it mean when a partner who has been remembering every argument and forgetting every promise suddenly does the opposite? And this is what I mentioned earlier, and it is something everyone in a relationship needs to understand. Do not just feel relieved. Pay attention. People in relationships are creatures of pattern. When they break one this significant, something real has shifted. Sometimes the reason is growth. They have processed something internally and are ready to reconnect. Other times, it is need. They want something from you. Forgiveness, reassurance, a fresh start. And sometimes, It is cyclical. Esther Perel and Gottman both describe patterns where partners cycle between withdrawal and return, distance and closeness. It is not a straight line. It is a rhythm. And that rhythm can keep both partners off balance if neither one understands what is driving it. The partner who remembers every argument is not keeping score. They are keeping a record of every moment they felt unseen. The partner who forgets every promise is not being careless. They are telling you that hope feels too expensive when safety is not guaranteed. Because that behavior, it was never just a habit. It was a conversation your partner was having with you in the only language they knew how to use. And now you understand what they were saying. If this video helped you decode something you have been feeling but could not put into words, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper into what your partner's everyday behavior is really telling you, watch this video next. It breaks down another pattern most people completely misread.